Hello, listeners. We are your co-hosts, Janine Bailey and Marie Quigley, for the Empower World Coaching and Leadership Podcast.
Empower World brings guests who are making a difference to the world to inspire coaches and leaders who lead with mind, heart, and soul.
Hello and welcome, listeners, to the next episode of the Empower World Coaching and Leadership Podcast. And today I'm not with Marie Quigley, but I am with two amazing women, coaches, leaders, supervisors, and so much more. I'm here today with Larissa Thurlow and Traci Manalani. No, I said that incorrectly.
Good.
I didn't. Thank you, Traci. We were just sharing earlier that I've never used your surname before, so it's an experiment. Welcome to you both. Thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate your time and generosity of sharing your wisdom. And I just want to quickly share that, Larissa, you and I met many, many, many years ago in Doha, Qatar.
When we were out of the womb, right?
Exactly.
Because we're very young.
Yes, exactly. Something like 2007, 2000, something like that. We were both coaches in Qatar, and there were not very many coaches at that time.
No.
We met as we were aiming as a very small group, I think around half a dozen of us, trying to build a network of coaches in Qatar. So I do have this vivid memory of meeting you in a cafe with that amazing mane of hair that you have. And of course, we went on to reconnect in many different ways, in person in Qatar, and since then online, again in different ways, in forums, etc., including coach supervision group coaching supervision training. And that is where I met the wonderful Traci as well. So, and Traci, of course, we've been connected in various ways since then as well, but really appreciate you both being here. I've spoken a lot. I'm going to hand over to you both to introduce yourselves more formally. So
Thanks, Janine. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be with you. So thanks for the invitation. And I love that sort of looking back at how we've connected. I do remember being in Qatar together. And I remember at that point, I hadn't long finished my coach training, but I was very interested in teams. And as you say, there weren't very many practitioners there. And so I was fuddling about trying to figure this all out on my own. And team coaching wasn't what it is now. It wasn't as well known. And I remember having Hawkins' book and just being frustrated because I felt very isolated with figuring out what this was. And then fast forward many, many years and to the lots of training and stuff in between, but landing in the supervision group. And I met Traci and knew that she was a team. One of the conditions of joining the group was I wanted to work on teams, and the facilitators, the leaders, Lily Sato and Damien Goldberg, they said, "Oh yeah, Traci will be in the group and she works with teams." I was like, "Okay, sign me up." So I was very happy to connect with Traci, and we've been doing lots around teams. And you mentioned the word wisdom that comes into our space as well, but I'll hand it over to Traci to kind of say a little bit more about herself and how we've connected as well.
Yes. And so our paths did not cross until at least this decade, I guess you could say, during the pandemic, really. But before that, similar path as a coach, having worked as a coach for many decades, actually, and then specializing in working with teams because it's really about the systems. In fact, the ripples behind us is both Larissa and I share this in common about wanting the impact at a systems level. And so when you start working with a system, whether it be a team or a group of people, that's what is my passion and it lights me up. And I loved the fact that we met in all three of us really in the supervision of groups. And so there's something magical about that, working with people in groups. And so my credentials are online. I don't need to say anything more about that, but I am definitely loving the power of connection.
Yeah. Thank you both. And again, really appreciate you being here. And for those who are listening to this versus seeing the visual of this, both Larissa and Traci have got these lovely circles of, it looks like a water drop, the ripple effect going out. So yeah. And I resonate with what you share about teams. And certainly I recall Larissa working with your organization in a an appreciative inquiry exercise with your team, and it's such a wonderful way to be able to connect all of these different perspectives, ideas, wisdom um, together through team coaching, and of course being able to work with somebody, work with a partner as well in that environment is so useful, so helpful. And of course, that's something that Marie and I did a lot of in our time in Qatar, and it was hugely beneficial to bring again the wisdom that's in the group. So, and we spoke together before we started this podcast recording in terms of what to focus on, because I know that you both bring so much experience and again knowledge that can support teams and individuals, of course, who exist in those teams. And so we landed on looking at how we can support leaders, teams, individuals, groups in terms of reconnecting, pausing, reflecting, renewing, tapping into. This is, I believe, where we landed. You might want to push
Yes.
back on some of the things I've said,
No.
but I want, and I really appreciate how important it is to be able to create that container or place to be able to do that work. It's to really come out of the tunnel vision that we can potentially get down into, either as an individual or a group, and not pause to smell the roses, so to speak. So handing over to you both, because I know that that's something that you both are very passionate about creating and supporting with the leaders and the teams you work with. So handing over to you to really support our audience to understand the importance of that.
Traci, do you want to start us off and I can weave in?
Sure, sure. So specifically what Larissa and I have been doing together because we are in relationship with each other is to help others come into relationship around tough topics, tough concepts, which leadership is one. And what we have found through our work as coaches and as, I mean, whether it be individual or team coaches or even leadership development experts, is that leadership is lonely. People are very isolated when they are in their workplaces. And so we were finding that it's really beneficial when we've experienced people go through cohort-based programs, that that's the part they love. Yes, there's some best practices that they pick up along the way, but the magic happens when they're together. And so we've been starting to pull people together and offer them experiences that we've named wisdom circles instead of a mastermind group where people are just giving advice to each other. We're creating a space for leaders to come together to share their challenges. And it's just a place for them to reflect in community with each other, in connection with each other, and to really tap into the power of pause through appreciative inquiry with each other. And so actually, we don't need to use much of our expertise other than the holding of the space because the wisdom is there in the group. And so, Larissa, I'll let you add on to that.
Yeah, I think there's something, there's just going back to how you said that we worked together previously, Janine. So that was always sort of, I was very much an internal sort of coach and OD professional. And so there was lots of support for leaders, but they were all from the same organization. And I really notice with the work that Traci and I are doing, we tend to collect and actually, I'm going to change that and say curate our groups to sort of, think about fit. But there's generally a diversity of where these leaders are coming from. They might be from the same sector. Example, the last group that we had, they're mostly from the, nonprofit or NGO. But I think leaders really appreciate that opportunity to work with people facing similar problems, but in a different organization or a different sector, and just sort of normalizing that, no, I'm not going crazy. I'm not the only one going through this. This is something that's happening, elsewhere. And so just that of itself, I think, is helpful for people, just to sort of normalize it and, have a chance to talk to colleagues. Because as Traci said, or maybe it was you, Janine, I can't remember who said it, but leadership is quite lonely, and just having that time and space to talk things through and to build relationships, to build connection. Yeah, we really see. I just remember, that sort of internal, and now more of that external is quite interesting. The difference.
Yeah. No, thank you so much for sharing about the work that you're doing, and I feel incredibly drawn to it
Mhm.
as you share, because I really believe in that ability to be able to create that safe space, that spaciousness, to be able to have those challenging conversations, but also not to direct or lead or bring in your own perspectives, but allow and facilitate that conversation with leaders who I trust, really, as you said, Traci, that that place can be lonely, and so to be able to bring that ability for people to connect based on similar but different
Mhm.
situations and circumstances can be very, very connecting, resourceful. And I'm just trying to think of the words actually that I think that you brought in, Traci, before we came on to the podcast, in terms of what this is about. Those three words, what were they?
Well, I was thinking reflection and connection, and Larissa had would you like to add what you add to that?
Yeah, I think there's something about restoration
Mhm.
as well. I mean, I think people come in to the call or on the call, and, you know, different time zones. They might be in the middle of the day and sort of, in the swirl. They might be beginning the day or ending the day. But
Mhm.
by the time we've sort of had our time together, everyone seems to leave and feel rejuvenated, restored, able to just focus and not be, reacting to things, to be a bit more purposeful and mindful.
Yeah. No, and again, really appreciate that you are creating that place that enables those conversations, those tougher conversations, and I'm curious because again, we talked about potentially at the beginning, before we came online, was that people can be in that zone and not come out of it to breathe, to look at another perspective. I'm curious as to how you're finding the uptake for this. Are you finding that leaders are going, yes, this is exactly what I need, or is there pushback? I'm wondering what are you noticing?
Yeah, I can start us off. I think it's a bit counterintuitive, because people do feel like, oh, I don't have time for this, and so sometimes it's, oh, I've really, this sounds really good, but I got this on, so maybe the next cohort. Um, but then within the first session, they're like, oh no, like, I'm clearing the decks, I'm making time for this. So there is, I think, a little bit of an edge to get over to actually make that time. I think it's not unlike, when we go to the gym, I'm just back from the gym. That's why I'm looking a bit
Mhm.
wet. The mane isn't quite as out of control as it usually is, but everybody knows that they feel better generally, after having a workout or after getting out for a walk, but it's that, oh, I just want to grind out one more thing. And so I think that's something that, we're really working with, that mindset. I don't know, what would you add to that, Traci?
Well, yes, and so I think people don't necessarily understand, or leaders certainly don't understand at first, what is the value of coming to be in a conversation that doesn't have content. It's not structured. What am I going to learn? And so, in this fast-paced world, it's more about do. How can I do it faster? And so it is needing to have the ability to experience it first. And then, as Larissa said, once they recognize that actually there is so much learning, because it's spacious learning, and that it creates more space for them to get things done by slowing down. It's that concept of slow down to speed up. But you can hear those phrases like that, but you can't believe it until you experience it. And so for us, it's been really about having people experience the wisdom circles and this type of group process, and then they are on board with it. And so it's similar to other communities. Even we have a community of practice, I think, that you may have come to with the supervision of team coaches community of practice. But once people find the value of even that unstructured time to be together, there's so much appreciation that comes from it.
Yeah. Larissa, were you wanting to add
Yeah,
that?
I mean, I think already knew this or thought this at some level, but just as I was listening to Traci, I think we have this, doing more is better,
Mhm.
but it's not necessarily, just because you're pushing through and doing more,
Mhm.
it's the quality versus the quantity. And I think those that experience it, i- it's something that you just you viscerally feel, being able to just be more clear-minded and make better decisions.
Mhm.
Yes, yes. It's sort of, I mean, the saying, you can see the wood for the trees. Is that
Mhm.
Mhm.
that comes up when you share that, Larissa?
Mhm.
And I mean, what you're describing is also something that is very obviously similar, aligned to what we know as coaching supervision. And I'm thinking of that question that I asked earlier comes from also recognizing that in our own profession that we do
Mhm.
have many coaches who do go to supervision, but there are still many
Mhm.
who don't because of their maybe for some of the reasons that you've shared. They perhaps don't recognize the power of it.
Mhm.
Mm.
Um, they perhaps don't know about supervision yet, as it's still in its earlier stages of awareness. Although I hope that it's a lot more along those lines now. Um,
Mhm.
but I think there's still coaches who don't really fully understand the power of supervision,
Mm.
and putting on our own oxygen mask to be in service of the people that we serve. Um, so hence my curiosity about that question about leaders. So we as a coaching profession potentially should understand that this is the space we need. But I know that it's still not fully embraced. So I was curious about leaders, and their willingness to
Mhm.
participate. So I'm really so happy and delighted for you both that you are making this happen,
Mm.
that space for leadership to do that deeper inner work.
Mm.
Mhm.
So what else are you finding from doing what you're doing? What else are you appreciating that can support others to other leaders, coaches to do their own work?
Mhm.
It's interesting. Traci, did you have something you wanted to share first, or?
Well, there was just something from our earlier conversation, and I don't know that it's answering the question, but what was coming up for me is the importance of even slowing down individually. And so it's not I mean, certainly coaches should be reflecting on their own coaching work, but leaders as well. I mean, any human being to just slow down and to have time to reflect. But what I've been finding interesting when working in reflection in connection with the groups is that you create that accountability, because sometimes we will book that time on our calendar for ourselves and then we end up doing something. I think it was when Larissa was talking about doing something. And so it's easy to overwrite that when it's just ourselves. But when we make a commitment to go and be a part of the group, we gain something and we're giving something as well. And actually, that's what many of the participants have said, is that they appreciate listening to each other and offering that gift to another. And then that itself is restorative. And so they're practicing skills of being in relationship with each other, but they're
Yeah.
also, they're protecting that time because they feel committed to helping others as well as themselves. And so there's something about this accountability that is inherent in the group process that is happening. And so that was what was on my mind still.
Okay, I could see.
Yeah.
Didn't want you to lose that thought.
Thank you. Thank you.
And you brought up something for me, which is pinging me a bit over here, so I'll come back after. But I love that you brought because there's kind of that, there's a quote that stands out. I might get it a bit wrong, but one of our participants, they just said in a couple of the sessions, this is the only place, I think they said, that I can come where people aren't expecting something from me. Like I'm getting something and people aren't breathing down my neck expecting something from me. And I don't know, that just kind of gives me goosebumps. Like that is really important. So yeah, that's from the leader perspective, but maybe taking us back a bit when you said about coaching, I don't think it really matters what the practitioner is, whether it's leadership or coaching or supervision, but I think how we reflect, or if we reflect, it really impacts how we see ourselves as practitioners. And going back to coaches, I think coaches, this might be a bit provocative, but I think coaches can be, they don't walk their walk sometimes. They're out saying about take care of yourself, and but they're grinding harder than anybody I know. And I'll put my hand up. I mean, I can sometimes fall into that trap. And so it's really about, you mentioned accountability. I would say it's also about authenticity. It feels a bit, so we're disingenuous. I can't, there's a word on my tongue, but to be sort of in autopilot as a coach and trying to help others. So, I think we need to do the work that we're trying to support others to do. Otherwise, it just doesn't feel aligned to me or in integrity. So I think that's really important, and I think it gives, again, no matter what the practitioner, I think it brings a sense of aliveness to your practice. You it's not that autopilot grinding. It's like we notice the energy, don't we? When people sort of start the call and they're just and
even
then
us.
yeah, exactly.
Like,
And then it's just we're all recommitted and re-energized to go and do the work because there's actually that connection to it. Whereas sometimes I think you can get a bit disconnected. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you both for sharing. And what I heard when you were initially expressing what was coming up for you, Traci, the thing that came back to me was that, when you give to someone, when you are offering someone else support, you're also giving yourself a gift in that. And so it's just that beautiful win-win-win ripple 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 effect.
Exactly.
So I really appreciated you sharing that and connects to that. And I'm sorry, if you can hear Batman in the background.
No.
Very good. My computer's doing a wonderful job.
I'm super curious now. Now I remember Batman's your cat. Okay.
I'm so pleased the computer's doing a great job of filtering out his very loud noise. He's woken up. So, and Larissa, now that Batman's got up, my thought that came up in relation to what you were sharing has just perhaps slipped my mind now. But it will come back. And it's not coming back right now.
I was talking about sort of autopilot and how, as coaches, we need to do sort of our own work. I don't know if that jogs something.
Yes, thank you for jogging my memory. Thank you, Batman. Yeah, so there is I believe that potentially as you shared, potentially you get on that track as well of doing and I know that I get on to that track now that things have changed in the business. It's about pivoting, and I truly believe in still putting on my oxygen mask and coaching supervision. So I really believe that that is something that supports me through all of those challenges. It's essential that I continue that practice and support myself, look after myself through certainly understanding my own blind spots in thinking and normalizing situations and supporting me to become perhaps, I hope, even better at what I do as a coach. So I believe it's so important that we do put on our oxygen mask, so to speak. And so I'm wondering, in terms of you creating this, I'm wondering what might or what evidence you might have explored to support this that might again also assist our listeners to recognize, whether they're coaches or leaders, that this is the work that we really need to do to be able to create that firm foundation of who we are and what we bring.
Right. I think there was the evidence that predated us doing this effort, and then now there's new evidence from having done it. So I can speak to some of the things that prompted us moving there, which was the cohort-based learning experiences, and so I've probably spent, I don't know, 40% of my time facilitating learning experiences alongside the coaching work that I've done. And I think I mentioned earlier that when people would complete some of these programs, these journeys, that their appreciation really was from the group experiences, and not just going through a training program together, but actually through group coaching experiences. So when there were groups of 5 to 8 people coming together to reflect on the learning together, it was a formalized program. There was magic that would happen that wasn't scripted or planned. It would just happen in the space that was created. And so watching that unfold in these programs really was eye-opening for me and exciting for me. And so as Larissa and I had been doing group supervision with team coaches primarily, and also some team coaching together. So we've been working with systems together. We were thinking, like, why not? This makes good sense. And so we wanted the ripple effect. And so let's invite this directly and just create these more emergent spaces for leaders. But since then, we're finding more evidence as people actually are going through these wisdom circles and hopefully soon to be in-person retreats. Larissa, what would you like to share as far as what have we noticed through the impact?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna start quoting a bunch of studies because
Mm-hmm.
you said evidence, and like my little researcher brain
Oh, well,
all
fair.
excited.
I heard Janine
But
say evidence, but yes, right. Yeah. Yeah.
but I think what really as I'm sort of scanning of which path to go down, I think what's really standing out for me is that the real shift with kind of like everyone's dysregulated when they get on the call. We're not doing a lot of work in person at the moment. Tracy's in France, I'm in the UK, but I can feel it. People
Mhm.
are just buzzing when they get on the
Mhm.
call, and
Mhm.
you know they're kind of putting their phones down and looking at this screen, and we tend to do some kind of a grounding. We do a lot with breathing and just checking in on your body. Not much time at all. It's usually quite brief, but
Mhm.
you can just feel it's not six different individuals,
Mhm.
and they're not a team. They're not a team because
Mhm.
they're all from different organizations. They're not working really on anything together. They come together to reflect, and just that difference in the energy, in the way they're holding each other, holding themselves, um, and the thinking. It's just clearer and
Mhm.
calmer. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's again wonderful to hear how you're noticing the difference in the people that show up, and I really appreciated, Tracy, what you shared about previous, prior to creating what you're creating together, the experiences from the training, and I could so relate to that, so relate to what you were sharing in terms of seeing the groups that Marie and I have trained
Mhm.
over many years. It's the connection, it's the bond, and I still hear that. I hear that years later, through the work that we do when we bring people together. There's I still hear those connections with each other and how much
Mm.
everyone appreciated that, and how they're
Mm.
so pleased that they're still connected. So I think what
Mhm.
you're creating is
Mm.
works on so many different levels.
Right.
The
Right.
heart,
I
mind,
have
and the
oh,
soul.
I
Yeah.
have one thing that there was a word you said earlier, Janine, that really popped for me, which was blind spot. Because that's the beauty of the group experiences is it's not just blind spots, but it's also the revealing of hidden strengths.
Yeah.
Because sometimes a person will come in with a topic that they want to explore, but then it changes, it transforms because of what the group is able to see in that person and reveal to that person. And so the reflection isn't just the internal reflection, it's actually holding up mirrors or showing like how others see that person. And that's another thing that we've observed, and it's magical
Mm.
to just see the confidence change for that person, or new possibilities, and unlocks new possibilities because of what is offered as gifts from the group. So it's really magical.
Yes, absolutely. And I truly believe blind spots, yeah, it could be anything.
Exactly.
Mm.
Exactly.
The things that hold us back, or the things, or the opportunities of enhancing that, or the
Yeah.
or the or the gaps of opportunities that we're identifying.
Mm.
So, Larissa and Tracy, as we draw near to the end of our conversation today, sadly for me, what is it that you might like to, as a final thought or question, reflection for our audience listening today?
Yeah, I think it might be for me just a challenge of, when you think you don't have time for it. You know, I don't know. It's can you afford not to,
Mm.
basically? In our crazy busy, that people are holding so much, just in the world, everything that's going on, and then in their organizations and their families, and it's just can you afford not to?
Mm. Yeah.
And I guess for me, it's what are the connections that nourish you?
Mm. Great, great questions. And yes, I think particularly in this place and space we are in the world at the moment right now, those are such important questions to ask of ourselves, each and every one of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so much that is potentially disconnecting us from each other. So this is the opportunity to really come back.
Oh, I just got goosebumps from that. Thanks, Janine.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate the time that we've had together to reconnect. And really thank you for bringing your insights and experiences and so much more, your reflective questions to our audience. So people listening and who want to get in touch with Larissa and Traci, please find all of their connections, the way you can connect with them on the website, on where you found this podcast. And I'm so sure they'll be delighted to connect with you. So thank you for listening. Thank you both. Appreciate you both and everything that you're doing. And I look forward to actually reconnecting with more exciting outcomes, evidence.
Maybe in person.
Yes, in person would
Yeah.
be amazing. I'm
Yeah.
hoping that happens. I'm putting it out there.
Thank you, Janine.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. You can find out more about us on our website www.empower-world.com and on our social media networks Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram and YouTube. Be empowered.